Takeaways from the Jet board meet, exactly like how we told you. First thing this morning, my colleague Naresh Goyal will be with us in just minutes from now. She was the first one to report that Naresh Goyal is going to step down along with his wife Anita Goyal, and it's actually happened. Naresh Goyal, along with his wife Anita Goyal, has quit the Jet Airways board. Nayanthara, bang on, you were the first one to break the story early morning today, and it's come true. What happens next?
That's right. We told you at 8 a.m. and we're picking up that a few minutes back when the Jet Airways board meet did conclude. It has concluded with the resignations of the founders of Jet Airways. Naresh Goyal and Anita Goyal, that founded Jet Airways nearly 25 years back, have stepped down. They were the principal promoters as well. We are being told that an official confirmation will be made to the stock exchanges quite soon. There's a lot more that we need to watch out for when it comes to the stock exchange notification. For example, what is going to happen to Naresh Goyal's shares? 51% is what Naresh Goyal and family held in Jet Airways. I've been telling you through the day that those shares are currently with Punjab National Bank in a non-disposable undertaking. NDU works like pledge shares. Will the public sector banks invoke all of those shares? Will Jet Airways become quasi-national by the end of today? The banks holding the majority share in Jet Airways, these are all government-owned banks. Something else we need to watch out for. With Anita Goyal and Naresh Goyal gone, you're of course talking about a new reconstitution of the board. Naresh Goyal was a chairman, Anita Goyal was a director. Who's going to replace them? We at ET Now had picked up two names that the lenders had zeroed in on. One was an old Jet hand, had been on the board of Jet for 3 years, but more importantly had also worked in SBI, was the managing director of SBI, so has the confidence of the lenders. I'm talking about Mr. Vishwanath over there. The second name we picked up was the former SBI chairman, Janki Ballab, being considered by the lenders, has been a former CVC chief, the chief vigilance commissioner, has headed that body as well. That's something else we need to watch out for. Plus, Etihad, we were told by our sources that in the days to come, in the very near future, Etihad may want to dilute its stake. Is that going to be today, or is that going to be the near future, in the days to come, in the weeks to come? It's not exiting, but does want to bring its stake down. Those are some of the details we need to watch out for. But the big story, and you're seeing the stock market reaction, the Jet Airways stock higher by nearly 9% in trade on the back of this ET Now exclusive. It's a done deal. Jet founders Naresh Goyal, Anita Goyal have stepped down. This could also pave the way for the banks to infuse funds. The banks didn't want to work with Naresh Goyal. Etihad didn't want to work with Naresh Goyal. I believe Jatinder Batra is with us on the phone line.
Yeah.
Mr. Bhargav, good afternoon. This is Nayanthara from the New Delhi studio. We at ET Now exclusively picking up that Naresh Goyal and Anita Goyal, the founders and promoters of Jet Airways, have stepped down. Would you see this as a clean way for the banks to put in money? In an unprecedented move, Jet Airways going to be quasi-national. The public sector banks going to be the new promoters of this airline.
See, it's a very welcome development as far as Jet Airways is concerned, because with Naresh Goyal at the helm, the airline was going nowhere. He tried his very best to get infusion of funds, but he failed. Now, banks, of course, could have reacted at least 3-4 months earlier, and then the Jet wouldn't have been facing this crisis that it is confronted with 70 of its aircraft on ground. And with substantial loss in market share, it will be an uphill task for the banks to put a new management in place, revive the airline, and ensure that Jet can really be put on a firm footing.
So I believe Ashwin Parekh is also with us. Good afternoon, Mr. Parekh. You and I were chatting. This is Nayanthara just 2 hours ago. It's a done deal. Naresh Goyal, Anita Goyal have quit. That notification to come to the stock exchanges. Actually, Anil Singhvi is joining us. I'm going to go first to Mr. Singhvi. Mr. Singhvi, it's a done deal. I'm understanding from my sources that Naresh and Anita Goyal have quit Jet Airways, an airline they founded nearly 25 years back. It's an unprecedented move. You're going to see the banks becoming the majority shareholders. Is this good news for India's second largest airline? With the one person out, the founder out, all other stakeholders may be ready to save the airline.
I think it's a step in right direction, because if you look at the overall scheme of things in India, that if you go to IBC, in any case, you lose the control. So this is a pre-IBC resolution plan rather than litigating, because many of them have gone for huge litigation once you go into the NCLT process. So I think it's much better. I think proactively the banks are looking for solutions, and I think it's high time, because if you look at the market cap of the company, which is just about 2,500 crore, versus the total outstanding loans and other dues would be in excess of 10,000 crore. So when you look at from overall perspective, it's much better that we have these kind of resolutions than litigations. So I'm all for it. I think it's good for the shareholders, good for the lenders, and it's a critical infrastructure. Jet Airways is just not an ordinary company. So I think it's very important that the lenders proactively look at it. They must infuse the funds and get a professional setup of the board and the management team, and be again in the business. We can't afford to lose Jet Airways not being there on the scene. So I think it's a very, very critical thing.
I totally understand. And, with just 50% of the flights being grounded, look what's happening with airfares. They're up by almost 100%. But Mr. Singhvi, what I wanted to ask you was, and you brought up this whole point that it is better to have a resolution before insolvency is invoked, before this company has to go to the NCLT. The question I want to ask you is this, and I'm asking this on behalf of all corporates that are struggling to make payments. Where does one draw the line? You have this problem with an airline, key infrastructure, employs 23,000 people. Where does one draw the line? Look at real estate. Third-party interests are created. Should real estate companies, for that matter, not be going to NCLT? Should service-oriented companies not be going to NCLT? It's a new law. Every case is an acid test. So I just want to understand from you where you stand on this one.
Let's look at real estate and aviation, because real estate also, there are home buyers who have bought the houses and not got it. Supreme Court has held that they are even superior than the secured creditors, because I think the home buyer, because he's put his sweat and tears in buying a house, and if the developer really runs away or does not meet his contractual obligations, then it is far superior thing that a resolution isn't arrived at. People should get what they have paid for, and similar thing in aviation, because if I booked my ticket and the airline chooses to cancel that flight and I have to wait for my refund, I think one has to be a little more proactive in these kind of B2C businesses than B2B, and airline and real estate and all are B2C. So where banks have to really draw a line to look at which companies and which sectors they really need to step in, and one has seen in last almost 12 to 18 months, I'm not being critical, but this is a fact that instead of resolution of most cases, we have gone into litigation of most cases in IBC, from NCLT to NCLAT to Supreme Court again sending the matters back to Appellate Tribunal and NCLT, and one has seen this kind of drama enacted by the promoters. So I think it's much better that now the promoters should realize in India that the stage has come when they can't just keep on playing this time game, and I call it time game very, very carefully, that people have bought enormous time and then they come and put a bid. I mean, this is where one has to draw a line, and I'm glad in Jet Airways the banks have really proactively put their foot down, asked the promoters to quit the board, now reconstitute the board, infuse the fund, and put the airline back into business.
This is an ET Now exclusive. It's not breaking now. It's an exclusive story only with ET Now that Naresh Goyal and Anita Goyal have quit. If I could now introduce Kapil Kaul as well. Kapil Kaul, you've been tracking aviation for years altogether. It's the end of an era, the founders having to go. They tried to stretch it for as long as they could, but none of the stakeholders wanted to work with the Goyal family. What is this going to mean for Indian aviation? An unprecedented move. You're likely to see public sector banks take over Jet Airways.
So I think, first of all, it's logical what has happened. Not entirely surprising that the developments over the last few weeks were pointing in that direction. So I think we have passed one critical milestone, but the important milestones are yet to be done, that the company needs fresh infusion of capital and equity capital, and we need to find that the resolution plan which is being done by the banks must factor in the capital, equity capital into the company. That would be a key determinant that there is a long-term future for the company. Because if the banks decide to only just convert and there'll be no fresh capital coming in, for me, that will be a very, very short term. So you don't want to invest about a couple of $100 million into the taxpayers' money and go to an NCLT again tomorrow. So one has to wait in detail as to where the capital infusion is coming from, who are the participants, and what is the governance architecture at the board level. That will determine as to what would happen in the future. But if we were to say that we're putting about 1,500 crores in the company...
Okay, I want to interrupt you there. Okay, I want to interrupt you there. Guess we have breaking news exclusively with ET now at the moment. This is where it stands at. Official notification to come soon. The lender's stake is going to be at 50.1%. We are also being told that Naresh Goyal's stake is going to be reduced from 51% to 25.5%. The Etihad stake, Etihad at 24%, it stands reduced from 24% to 12%. That's exactly what we also told you, that Etihad could get diluted by today. Perhaps we'll lose one board member also today. What we're also being then told is that the CEO decision is going to be taken very shortly, could be announced today. As far as the new board members goes, the names have been decided, will go in for clearance, and once that's done, there will be the new board members of Jet Airways. Kapil Kaul, you track this airline very, very closely. You have the new shareholding. Naresh Goyal's new stake is going to be 25.5%. Lenders will have 50.1%. Etihad stands diluted from 24% to 12%. This, we understand, is going to be the new shareholding. Having said that, we're also being told that Naresh Goyal and his wife Anita Goyal have quit Jet Airways. What do you make of this?
Well, as I said to you, that the key decision for me would be that what are the next steps? How will the capital come into the company, equity capital, and how large is the equity capital? Because I believe that the funding plan and the gaps that were identified by the banks as a part of the resolution plan be inadequate now. So it's very critical to know where is the investment coming from, how much is the investment coming from. That's number one. Second point would be that are we going to see somebody like Mr. Uday Kotak or somebody like him with a track record to lead the board? What will be the other?
Okay, so he gets to keep 25% and stay on as an investor, but not on the board. The guests that I have with me right now, Kapil Kaul of Kappa, South Asia. We have Jatinder Batra, you all know him well, formerly with the Air India and tracks corporate governance very closely. We also have Ashwin Parekh with us. Mr. Parekh, could I come to you now? I hope you were connected when we brought you through the new shareholding that you're likely to see at Jet Airways. Naresh Goyal, out of the board, has resigned, however, will be an investor with a 25% stake. Lenders will get the lion's share, 50.1%. Etihad, which has refused to put another penny into Jet Airways, stands diluted to 12% from the current 24%. It's a new management. It's going to be a new board. Names have gone in for approval. A new innings for Jet Airways. Do you now imagine that the rescue plan is indeed going to be successful? The lenders will obviously start looking for a new buyer for their 50.1% stake.
Well, yeah, so this is very interesting. I mean, at this point in time, for the lenders to really identify a buyer, may take a little time. I mean, because if there was a buyer, then Jet Airlines itself, Mr. Goyal could have really attempted and got a buyer. So in that backdrop, three things come to my mind. One is, we're talking about public sector kind of, financial lenders, getting into the management of this organization. The ownership, of course, with 50.1, they already have the large part of ownership. Now, in that backdrop, what kind of governance will this new government, will this new organization have, both at the board level and the governance framework for the management team? So that's the first important question. I mean, will the new board and will the financial lenders be open to running it like a good private sector performance-oriented kind of an organization is one question that, immediately draws the attention. The second important part about the management of this organization. One thing, of course, is very clear that financial lenders, and in particularly public sector kind of financial lenders, will not have the necessary bandwidth, but they can always look at the current bandwidth, identify gaps, see whether future cash flows can improve, see whether valuation can be restored, and then at some stage start looking at selling the stake off. So there's financial investors purely who become suddenly strategic investors. I mean, they cannot continue to hold that kind of a position. Eventually, they will have to come out of this investment. So, I mean, it all will work out as we see. The first assessment that the financial lenders will make of the business and the potential of this business, I mean, is something which will really play a significant role. I'm almost reminded, since Kapil said someone like Mr. Uday Kotak, my attention is immediately drawn to the first assessment that was carried out, that was done in a 30 days kind of a period, like in case of ILFS. Something similar perhaps may be called for. If this new owners and managers do a quick assessment, of this particular business and where Jet Airline is in regard to that business, and then come out with a clear white paper in a clear direction in terms of all aspects, governance, management, gaps, then I suppose we may see something constructive happening, after this.
Mr. Singhvi, this is Utkarsh from the Mumbai newsroom. Just want to understand, when we speak about aviation as a business, we have been saying that there are very few success stories. If you look at the way Indigo has been running, and most probably the turnaround of SpiceJet when Ajay Singh took over. In an environment like this, in an industry like this, how difficult will it be for the bankers really to stabilize an airline which was run by somebody like a Naresh Goyal, who was a veteran from a long time? There have been a lot of new CEOs from Etihad. There were CEOs like Vinay Dubey, who have abroad experience as well, coming in and taking on board. How difficult will it be for the lenders to really take this off from here, given the fact that the industry itself has a very few success stories in place?
I'm Singhvi here. Is this question to me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't think it's that difficult a situation. So long as an objectivity is there, they can get a CEO. There are enough people available locally and globally who can run an airline business on that. So I don't think it's that difficult. And again, we attach too much of importance in India to the promoters and leave the complete management out, and we think that all success and failures are on account of promoters. I think one has to really lift ourselves from beyond promoters and see how companies in India can be professionally managed. And if suppose Naresh Goyal on his own volition had decided to step down, then what would have happened? So I think we must move on in life to see we can have very, very high caliber of management team. Under the supervision and guidance of the board, I think same thing can be achieved and done. Now, how soon this airline can be viable, I think will depend largely on account of how we can work out the best of the routes, economics of the game, and of course it's a very competitive landscape. So it will take a while. I don't think that there will be a magic wand that you can convert this airline into a profitable one. But since the Indians have started moving by air, and I think this is like a telecom story. As you have more and more uses of the telecom and airline services, these businesses will become viable. You have seen in telecom, one company coming in, it has become hugely disruptive. But over a period of time, like in telecom, airline also will be a viable proposition. And particularly in a country which is as complex in terms of reach out to far-flung areas, I think the airline business is not a bad business to be in.
Okay, with that, we're running out of time. It's time for market closing. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us here for this mega ET Now exclusive. It's exactly the way we told you. At 8 a.m., Naresh and Anita Goyal, the founders of Jet Airways, have stepped down from the board of the airline. They have founded 25 years ago, but they stay on as investors, will hold about 25% stake. We told you Etihad was going to dilute in the near future. It's happening now. We'll be diluting stake from 24% to 12%. The names of the new board members have been discussed. It's gone for approval. So all I can say is stay tuned to ET Now.